Seeing no rush to the sanctuary, I believe we have everyone. Welcome this morning to First Congregational United Church of Christ of Sioux City. Today, or this moment, is time for the announcements. And so are there announcements to be given?
I got a whole week to make up for here. First thing I want to talk about is the donations for the Sanford Center. We've had a really good response, and I want to thank you all for that, but now we've got another full month and part of August to go yet, so cart's empty. Bring it and fill it up. I want to thank Pam Ridgway and Ellen Shaner and John Kiernan for taking stuff down there for me. They've really made my life easy this summer, so that has helped out a lot. Pam had money from 3 or 4 different people here in church and went to Sam's, filled up her car, and went to the Sanford Center. So they appreciate what we're doing for them. They've got 49 kids this summer, so it takes a lot of cereal to feed them all breakfast because I think they let them have however much they want. This is a new announcement. The rummage sale's coming up. Don't I hear any yay, hooray? It'll be towards the end of September, so if you've got stuff that you've been cleaning out now and don't have a place for it, we do. We have our 2 rooms at the end of the hall, so bring whatever you might have. Michael's here till 1 o'clock every day, so you can bring it then. You can always call me for an evening delivery. John Kiernan's always more than welcome to help us, so don't forget about it. Okay, and the last thing is the fellowship hour once again. We need somebody to sign up for July 21st, August 11th, 18th, and 25th. Thank you.
There was a deal in the straight to the point. One of the little boys that I'm going to be watching is in Children's Hospital. He's stable, but the front of his skull is completely shattered. He's got 2 concussions, 2 fractures in the back of his head, bleeding on the brain, and both of his legs are broken. This is a product of child abuse. His dad beat him. So we need lots and lots of prayers for this little boy. His name is Antoine.
Just quickly, the church office is going to be closed on Thursday this week for the 4th of July.
And I've got 2 quick announcements. I'll be taking a little vacation during the summer myself from the 8th to the 21st, if I remember those dates correctly. So Todd is going to be preaching for us during those 2 Sundays that I'll be away. So I'll give you a heads up on that. And just a reminder about the gatherings that we have, the Heart and Soul gathering. So there's a sign-up sheet right out on the table in the narthex. So if you haven't signed up already, I'd love to see you and learn a little bit more about you as you learn a little bit more about me. So thank you so much.
I will call your attention to when our first hymn will actually be page 178 and not 175 as shown in the program. So again, 178, and I'll remind you when we go. Seeing no others, let's take this moment to center ourselves while we listen to our welcoming music.
Good morning, everyone. It is good to see you as always. We're so thankful for your presence here, and we hope that your summer is going well. Welcome to First Congregational United Church of Christ of Sioux City. We are a community of faith where you matter. God has made you to matter, and we believe that you do matter. You matter no matter your abilities or disabilities, your successes or your failures, for your worth is in who you are, not what you can or can't do. You matter no matter your age or ethnicity, mental or emotional or physical attributes or family structure. Jesus believes that you matter no matter your past or your present. You matter if you have a criminal record or have never been arrested. So, no matter who you are welcome here. Welcome to this haven of hope where we want you to know and to always feel that you matter. Join with me as the worship leader calls us to our centering of our souls.
If you would come along with the centering of souls. And so we, O God, are often interrupted in the busyness of our lives by those with needs. You ask us to tend to those needs, as did Jesus, with compassion. When others clamor just to be touched and affirmed for who they are, give us the patience to be present to them and affirming of their worth. Empower us to come to the defense of those victimized by the abuses of others, even as Jesus sought out and helped a woman others had abandoned. Teach us the power of faith and the need for fearlessness. Help us to break the chains of societal injustice that we may free others in abundant life. Remind us that we need spiritual and not just nutritional fortification. Inspire us to be generous in our compassion towards others. When others are hungry for affirmation of their worth, fill our mouths with words that heal, and strengthen our hands and hearts that they may be uplifting to the spirits of our neighbors near and far. May it be so. Our first hymn for this morning is "The Women Hiding in the Crowd." It is in the purple, God Great to Glory, 178, 178.
At this time, we have our time for children. So do we have any children present right now? If not, I'm going to have us all, because we are all children of God, to go ahead and get started with a question I'd like to ask all of you. And that is, I'm going to talk about the healing power of kindness. So does anybody have any time in which they felt that they were healed by someone's kindness? Anyone have a story? So there was, oh, go ahead, Ruth.
Ruth and I have a very good friend who is a nurse, and she takes care of all of us at various times, and I do think that her advice has helped us a lot, and I certainly think her kindness has helped us.
Good. We're talking about kindness today, and we're talking about stories, and we just had someone tell a story of kindness that helped them. Do you know what kindness is? Yeah, so kindness is when, well, somebody's kind to you. It's or when you're kind to somebody else. It's when we look out for someone else's well-being and not just our own. That's what kindness is all about. And so I believe really strongly in the power of kindness, even when we may not know that we're really being kind. So when I was somewhere between your age and mine, but a lot closer to your age, I was in high school, and I went to this thing called Boys State, in which was selected to go and learn about how government works and all of that. And I met a lot of new, in fact, I didn't know anyone there except for one person, and that person was a person that was from another school, but whom I had been in athletic events and such with. But anyway, I went when we had our meals, I went to be with my friend who was from this other school, but I noticed that there was somebody sitting all by themselves, all alone at a table. And I was like, should I go sit with my friend or should I sit with this person? And I wasn't sure what to do at first, but then my conscience kind of got to me and said, you know, if I was that person sitting all alone, I would want somebody to sit with me. So I decided to sit with that person. Well, I still don't remember what that person's name. I forgot it after all these years what that person's name was. But the thing is, after that event was over, that person wrote to me and said how important it was that I sat with him because nobody had sat with him. And he said that that was one of the best moments of his entire weekend there at that event. And I thought, you know, it wasn't that big of a deal for me, and I almost decided to sit with my friend and the table that he was at, but it made all the difference in the world for that one person. And so I want to tell you to be as kind as you can to everyone that you know, because kindness can really have an effect that sometimes you don't even recognize that it will. And I've been thankful when people have reached out to me or sat with me or said something nice to me or smiled at me. All those things make me feel a little better. And so it's really important because kindness has a power to it to make us feel like we matter and that our lives matter. And so I want you to always feel that your life matters, and I want you to also make sure that other people that you meet know that their lives matter because of your kindness. So, can we all agree to be kind? That sounds like a really good thing to do. Let's have a prayer before we go. Dear God, we know that you are the one who showers us all with kindness, but you ask us also to pass it on to others. Help us to give that power of kindness in our lives by who we meet, to all whom we meet. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you for coming up. Oh, but we've got a noisy offering to go here. So, can you help pass the plate? All right, we're going to collect a noisy offering, and the noisy offering, if this is my first time, so if there's if you've got a particular thing that you would like to do, all right. Ooh. We put our clanging, and if you don't have a noisy piece of monetary that you can also put in other stuff too. But noisy is good. Yes, and then we're going to select a thing. As soon as the offering is collected, we'll select a thing to make this go to. All right, and all you have to do is put in your choice. Does anybody have any choices yet? Maybe we might have to shout them out. Blood support? Oh, flood support. Excellent. I was thinking on that same term. All right. Okay, very good. All right. And so we've had somebody to say flood support, which that sounds like the best idea for me because there's a lot of people in our area and around our area, larger area, that need help in this time. So our offering will go for that. Thank you all for giving to that. And as we come to our time of prayer, we share our joys and concerns, as well as if you've got a story of compassion or kindness to share. We'd love to hear those as well.
I would just like to ask for prayers for all the people who've been affected by the flood. My hometown of Spencer was completely overgrown, whatever, with water, and my family's business was greatly involved. But we all know of somebody here who may have, not necessarily here, but here in Siouxland, who's lost a home or lost a business or lost a job. And so we need to be thankful for all the benefits of life that we have.
Indeed. Thank you.
I would like to have continued prayers for our dear friend Gene Wilmot. I know a couple weeks ago I asked for prayers as well, but he received some very sad news with his doctor's test results that the doctor delivered, and so he could definitely use our prayers right now.
Okay. Gene Wilmot?
Yeah, Gene Wilmot.
Okay.
Yeah. And my dad is doing better, but yeah, still has to get a lot of blood transfusions quite often. So, yep, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Suzanne.
We have a couple joys in our family. A week or so ago, we had a new addition. My great nephew, August William Davis, was born in Des Moines, and that's really exciting. That's their first child. This is Kevin's sister's. This is her second grandchild, and then. Yesterday, my nephew, age 42, got engaged for the first time, and so he's very excited, and we look forward to a wedding sometime soon in our family.
All right, thank you.
It must have been the weekend for babies. My niece and her husband had a little girl, so this will be my 5th great niece. And then I also want to mention, as far as the flood relief goes, Missions is going to be sending a check for flood relief. If anyone would like to donate to that personally, you can give me a check for it or put it in the offering plate and mark it flood relief. and we'd be happy to include that with the check that we send.
Thank you, Jan.
Just like to ask you to keep my husband, Kelly, in your prayers. He is currently, hopefully, on his way home. He got admitted to the hospital Friday night, had 2 stents put in yesterday morning, and gets to come home today. My biggest prayer is keeping him with his weight limits and what he can do for the next week.
All right. Thank you, Pam. And we keep Antoine, who was mentioned earlier, in our prayers as well. Anyone else? All right. Let us be in silent meditation as we take our hearts to God. Oh God, for our prayers that we've mentioned, for Antoine, for flood victims, for Jean Wilmot, for Suzanne Stad, for Pam's husband, for nieces and nephews and great-nieces and great-nephews, we offer up your strength to those who most need it. We pray, O God, that your healing touch and tenderness may bless those that we've mentioned in our prayer request, as well as those who we have not mentioned but are in special need of those strengths in this time. You have made us all your children, so help us to see that we are all family of one another throughout this good earth. Help us to find ways to shower our love on others, both near and far. Bless us to be a blessing with our lives, not only with our prayers, but with our practices. And grant that in discovering the truths within our own faith, that we do not deny truths of those in other faiths. Help us to learn to understand one another all around this wide world. Make us receptive to listening to our neighbors near and far. And may our compassion be for those who are unlike us as much as those who are like us, for we are all siblings of one another. For those especially who have not known enough love in their life, help us to share ours with them in ways that they most need, and arouse us from our comfortable lives to do the difficult thing in pursuit of a better world. Grant us wisdom in how to come together to create a more loving, peaceful, and just world. And help us to be kind and merciful, to be encouraging and honest, to be faithful and wise, to be equitable and giving, and to be compassionate and inspiring. Grant us strength to be your people. May it be so.
Join with me in our unison prayer. Father, Mother of the cosmos, shimmering light of all, focus your light within us, we breathe your holy breath. Enter the sanctuary of our hearts, uniting within us the sacred rays of your power and beauty. Let your heart's desires unite heaven and earth through our sacred union, on earth as it is in heaven. Help us fulfill what lies within our circle of our lives today. Forgive our secret fears as we freely choose to forgive the secret fears of others. Let us not enter forgetfulness, tempted by false appearances. For from your astonishing fire comes the eternal song which sanctifies all, renewed eternally in our lives and throughout all creation. We seal these words in our hearts, committed in trust and faith. Our next hymn is from There Was Jesus by the Water. It is from the Black New Century hymnal, number 545.
you. You may be seated. The scripture lesson today has already been pointed out in the two hymns that we've sung thus far. There are two stories that come from Jesus' life, but they're intermeshed with one another. They come from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 5, verses 21 through 43. Hear these words as we listen for God's Spirit to be alive in us. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd around him gathered, and he was by the sea. And then one of the leaders of the synagogue named Jairus came, and when he saw him, fell at his feet and begged him repeatedly, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands upon her so that she may be made well and live." So Jesus went with him, and a large crowd followed him and pressed in on him. Now, there was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. She had endured much under many physicians and had spent all that she had, and she was no better but grew worse. She heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd, and she touched his cloak. For she said, "If I but touch his clothes, I will be made well." Immediately, her hemorrhage stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Immediately aware that power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" And his disciples said to him, "Jesus, you see the crowd pressing in on you. How can you say, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus looked all around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling, and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." While he was still speaking with her, some people came from the leader's house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the leader of the synagogue, "Do not fear. Only believe." He allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And when they came to the house of the leader of the synagogue, he saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he had entered, he said to them, "Why do you make such a commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they scoffed at him. Then he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. And he took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha kum," which means, "Little girl, get up." And immediately the girl got up and began to walk about. She was 12 years of age. At this, they were overcome with amazement. And he strictly ordered them that no one should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. May God add God's blessing to our understanding of these words for us today. The stories of Jesus ask us to use our moral imagination, to put ourselves in the skin of those whose lives he touched, and to wonder how we can put ourselves in the skins of those we meet along our life's way. and how we might in turn touch their lives. Jesus' words teach us to be compassionate to one another, all others. But Jesus' life shows us how to be compassionate. And that may be the greatest blessing we can gain from reading about how he treated others, those he knew, those who were strangers and foreigners, and even those who were enemies. In this story, Jesus had just crossed the border back into his own country after having been in foreign territory where he had been asked to leave. He had not been received well as an asylum seeker. He likely was anxious about this coming back home, as he had left to begin with because of threats to his life in his own homeland, as well as to extend his ministry to all people, not just his own. He had no more than come ashore when he was met by a crowd of people by the sea, the same sea that earlier had been so tumultuous as he went to the other side. Were his persecutors in the crowd? Who could and couldn't he trust? He must have wondered. Jesus can't seem to get a moment's rest and needs to take some time to regroup, to get his bearings, but the crowds won't allow it. They come to him with needs, and he responds immediately, as is the trademark of how Jesus does nearly everything in Mark's gospel. He is, in a way, accosted by the leader of the synagogue. Yes, the very group of people who had just days earlier wanted him to be killed. But the leader, Jairus, comes and kneels before him rather than raises a hand against him. And how does Jesus respond? With anger at the prior threats just a few days before? With ridicule for the man's hypocrisy? No, but with compassion. The synagogue leader begs Jesus to come and help his deathly ill daughter. And who wouldn't do the same in seeking mercy for their own children? Jesus, implicitly forgiving the man, goes with him towards his home. But the need of the masses is great, and people are crowding all around Jesus in search of their own miracles, which they've heard that he can perform. To his unawares, a woman with a bleeding issue comes up behind Jesus, spreading the way for her to touch his garment by telling people that she needs to touch his clothes to be made well. Now, they likely knew who she was or could see her condition. And they are likely getting out of her way, as to touch her or to be touched by her would mean that they themselves become ritually unclean. Can you imagine the scene? Their ridicule and condescension towards her, her anxiety and fear, as well as her determination and hope. She is instantly healed when she touches Jesus' cloak, something he likely would not have felt on his skin, but it is said that he felt some of his energy leave him. And why not? The energy and life of this woman had been flowing from her for 12 unbearable years. How exhausted, physically, emotionally, spiritually, she must have been. Can you conceive of the amount of healing power it took to heal her of her infirmity? Jesus asks who touches his clothes, which sounds ludicrous to his disciples given all the people around him. It's unclear whether Jesus, in this instance, is perturbed with someone who touched him in this way without his permission, or whether he merely seeks to find out who did it so as to acknowledge them as a person and to add to their healing. And I think it's the latter rather than the former. And what happens next lends itself to that interpretation. In any case, Jesus stops on his very intentional mission to heal the leader's daughter and begins searching for the person who received this healing energy from him. Can you not see him looking around and asking who did this? So with great trepidation, the woman admits she was the one, telling him her whole story. Having heard her, he affirms and encourages her. Jesus calls this woman his daughter, a term of endearment and intimate connection, and tells her that her faith, not his action, made her well. And then he blesses her, asking her to go in peace and receive the full healing of her disease. His empathy for this woman whom he has identified as his own family is no less than that which he feels for the man whose daughter is dying. They both were in need of help, and Jesus responded with compassion. How easy it is as we hear these stories to be amazed at the physical miracle of the healings and not to go deeper and see the spiritual healing Jesus wished to convey to them both, especially in the first case to the woman who needed a bodily cure. He treats this woman, one whom has been outcast by her own people, as a person of inherent worth and intrinsic dignity. How powerful was that, especially in the sight of the entire crowd, the very ones who likely had ostracized her all this time. In saying for her to have peace, he was in effect telling everyone around her to be peaceful towards her. For who can have peace in a place where you're looked down upon by others? While Jesus has been interacting with this woman, whom he reunites with the entire community, messengers come and tell the father that his daughter has died. Does this not make you weep? In looking for her cure, this father misses out on the last moments of his daughter's life. Again, can we only imagine this for ourselves if we were in his shoes? One might speculate that the father may have been upset when Jesus was healing and conversing with this woman who had a chronic hemorrhage. The more time he spent with her meant the less time he had to get to his daughter. And this woman was not a sweet, innocent young girl like his daughter, but an unclean, impure woman who, in their estimation, violated everyone she touched. What made her more worthy than his daughter he may have been stewing, as Jesus came to take his time in making this illegal woman, whose very condition defied the laws of the land, feel like an equal in the community? What would have been your thoughts as Jesus was delayed by this other woman if it was your daughter who was in desperate need? Whatever the father may have felt about Jesus interrupting his schedule to help the woman, who cannot recognize the intensity of emotion when he hears his daughter is dead? Compounding this utter lack of compassion of those who tell him so bluntly that she is dead, they also have the audacity to advise this father to no longer take up Jesus' precious time. Ever feel like the whole world is against you? That the violations to your own personhood are attached to unsympathetic oppressors and observers? and you've had more than you can possibly bear? That was where this father was. But then in the liminal space between faithful hope and unutterable despair, the father of the girl, dazed, angry, confused, empty, panicked, shattered, and fearful, hears these words of Jesus. Do not fear. Have faith. If you've just heard that your beloved daughter has died, such words may have seemed devoid of meaning and purpose. No need to fear now. The worst has occurred. Have faith in what? It's all now pointless. That would be one response that would not be too hard to imagine. Another might be in the denial that keeps our spirits from self-destructing. Okay, I will trust, though I have no outward reason to do so. I will have faith because it may be the only thing keeping me from a mental and spiritual breakdown. I will not fear because I have no energy left to do so. I'm just numb. Those are two responses. But was Jesus gently and tenderly with these words leading him to a greater awakening? One commentator, Megan McKenna, notes that the name Jairus in Greek means he who will be awakened or is enlightened. Jesus was well aware that all people die and that bad things happen to sometimes the best of people. To have faith that nothing terrible will ever happen to you or your family is simply unrealistic given our mortality. So what is the faith one is to have given that death, tragedies, and other evils occur in our lives? Time after time throughout all four Gospels, Jesus comforts his disciples, those he heals, and any who will listen with the words, "Do not fear." Fear is the opposite of faith. He inquires of the religious leaders and mourners, like the disciples on the stormy sea, why they don't have faith. Not in my estimation as a criticism, but as a bewilderment of their not latching on to what will help heal their souls and save their sanity. It is the woman's faith that Jesus said made her well. Despite 12 heart-wrenching years of affliction, she has held on to faith that the divine can enter her life. Else she would have never have obstinately tracked Jesus down and touched his cloak. She has put aside her fears of what others might think, and even the fear that they might kill her for her incivility and abandonment of the law as she sought for something more worthy of her time, attention, and life. That something was life-giving, divine compassion. She needed it to feel it from someone. And from what she had heard, Jesus might just be the one that she was looking for. While others had looked at her as detestable and unworthy to be amidst others in public, and even had created laws so that if she did come out of hiding, that she could be put to death for doing so. But Jesus ignores all those uncompassionate laws and speaks with the person, as a child of God, as his daughter, he calls her. He affirms she has God's image living in her just as everyone else has God's image living in them. But the story's not over. It's the father's faith that led him to believe in the blessing of life when his daughter's life was ebbing from her. It was his faith that led him to leave his own daughter to go and find help so that she could be cured. It was his faith that he saw Jesus, someone his colleagues, if not also himself, had seen with hatred in their hearts days earlier, as one who might be able to bring a bit of the divine to his daughter to heal her. It was his faith that he followed Jesus to his house and then to his daughter's bedroom to search for some divine answers to a human tragedy. And as he gathered more and more faith, he put aside his fears. Is having faith the condition of not fearing what will happen to ourselves and our loved ones because of where that center of faith is? That faith and eternal love and peace that we gain spiritually from trusting in God and God's ways? Life will have its awful episodes. We all know that. But what is able to get us through and beyond those ordeals is a value system in which we place our faith in the values and virtues of God. Such faith does not keep bad things from happening to us, no. But it does allow us the strength of spirit and character to realize that who we are as the children of God is more important than what happens to us as creatures on this earth. With this value system in place, we don't fear what may happen to us, for our sense of worth is not dependent upon how successful or prosperous our lives may seem to the rest of the world, but rather upon how we are connected to God and to one another in loving, peaceful, and just relationships. Our faith is not to be in the circumstances or results of what happens to us in life, but in the values, like compassion, that will sustain and inspire us despite the situations in which we face. Consider this perspective in relation to this story. The little girl was dying, and her father sought to find a way to make her live. The woman was living, but it was a life of social death and ostracization. Life had oozed out of the woman for 12 years, the same number of years, ironically, that was the age of the girl, 12 years old. These two females, dealing with things for 12 years, were unified in that they were experiencing illnesses that led to death. They needed life, and it was compassion that gave them life. A lesson for us all to learn. Whenever we feel life is ebbing from us, literally or metaphorically, it's been my experience that compassion is what restores me to life. The compassion of those who care enough to treat us as a beloved daughter or son of the eternally loving God. Jesus chose to seek out the woman who touched his garment, to let her know that he cared for her and wanted her to know the peace of living in a society that would no longer judge her for her circumstances. Jesus, even after been told that the 12-year-old girl had died, did not stop having compassion for her and her family after that news. He went speaking words of comfort and hope to her father and to the mourners who had already arrived ahead of him to express their heartfelt condolences at the tragedy of losing a precious child. He led the father and mother of the girl into her room where she lay motionless, being present with them in their heartache. And then he took the little girl by the hand. Another act of his being made ritually unclean as she was thought to be dead. And he asked her to rise up. How many of us need such words of compassionate encouragement when it seems that all hope is lost and we are as good as dead? Who doesn't need the inspiration of one who comes into our lives, unlike perhaps the many around us who only see our dis-ease and count us as dead? However stunning the physical healings in this story are, it is the compassionate tenderness of Jesus that points towards a much deeper spiritual reality. His compassion, like our own, can bring life out of death, hope out of despair, joy out of sorrow, faith out of fear, peace out of turmoil, and love out of hatred. The greatest miracles in this story, in my estimation, are the spiritual, not the physical ones. The girl who was dead now lives. The woman in despair was given hope. The father, mother, mourners in sorrow were given joy. Everyone who experienced fear were inspired to have faith. Those whose lives were filled with turmoil were given peace. And the synagogue leader who once may have hated Jesus came to love what he did for his daughter, and perhaps even came to love Jesus himself. When people's attitudes are transformed in this way, is not the greater miracle to be transformed in spirit and not simply be healed in body? We will all, each one of us here today, will die someday. And there is no cure for that. But while we live, we are to live life with loving abundance, with forgiveness, with fearlessness, with peace, joy, hope, and faith. Had Jesus physically healed these two persons without healing their spirit, the miracle would have been temporary. But because he affected their spirit, the miracle was eternal. And that is what compassion does. It connects us to the eternal. It takes away our fears and fills us with faith. May we all be so filled. Blessings, let us be. Please join with me in singing number 175. O Christ the healer, we have come.
Generosity arises from gratitude. Like heat arises from fire. Like fire, gratitude is lovely to see, but when it warms others with generosity, that is when it becomes a true blessing. We invite you to place your offering in the offering plate as it is passed, or you may give online or by mail if you are joining us virtually. Thank you. It's always a pleasure when you join with us and share your special gift of music with us today, and for Michael on your accompaniment as well. If you would join with me, please, in our unison prayer of dedication. O God of Pentecost, breathe your spirit of understanding, love, and respect into our hearts and minds, that we may help create a world of peace. Let these monies that we give be multiplied in serving justice in our world. Bless us as givers, that we may be joyful and thankful in our giving. Bless those who are beneficiaries of these gifts, that they may have their needs supplied and their hope lifted. In the Spirit of Christ we pray, may it be so.
Words of encouragement for your own spiritual journey. May the Spirit's fervor flow within your soul, that you may be a blessing to all you know. May kindness, grace, and peace be your clear stars, whether you stay at home or travel far. Forgive and give with a loving heart, if you wish to know life's healing art. May beauty abound in all you do, as to compassion you remain true.